think making sales social is more about listening and digesting and comprehending what is going on with your client base, your prospects, and the industries and where they operate. And I think with the proliferation of social media and quite frankly, just internet data available at the touch of your smartphone, making sales social empowers you as a salesperson to be a better student of who ultimately you want to do business with. And that is something that has been expanding over the past number of years. And I think it's even expanded more so in the past 12 months as we've all been moved to virtual selling environments.
Welcome to the Making Sales Social podcast, featuring the top voices in sales and marketing. Join hosts Bryn Tillman and Bill McCormick as they discuss the best tips and strategies they are teaching their clients so you can leverage them for your own virtual and social selling. Here are your hosts, Bryn Tillman and Bill McCormick.
Hey everyone, welcome to Making Sales Social. I'm Bill McCormick.
I'm Bryn Tillman.
So Bryn, who's joining us today?
We have someone directly from LinkedIn Sales Solutions, Jesse Rothstein, who apparently has been following our content for a long time and has recently published a book called Carry That Quota, woohoo, which we're really excited about, to really help salespeople even more than he is by offering Sales Navigator as a product. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bryn. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you. And I have to say, it's such an honor to have a global account manager at LinkedIn follow our content and love our tips and even ask for some thoughts around how to promote your book. So we're thrilled to have you here. Thanks.
Yeah, no, glad to be here. And like I said, been following your content and ideas for years, and very much a fan of what you put out there. As ultimately, I think we're aligned that helping salespeople getting better at the craft is something that we all believe in.
Yeah, love that.
For sure. So Jesse, we start every episode by asking every guest the same question. So Jesse, tell us, what does making sales social mean to you?
Yeah, to me, making sales social is more about listening and digesting and comprehending what is going on with your client base, your prospects, and the industries and where they operate. And I think with the proliferation of social media and quite frankly, just internet data available at the touch of your smartphone, making sales social empowers you as a salesperson to be a better student of who ultimately you want to do business with. And that is something that has been expanding over the past number of years. And I think it's even expanded more so in the past 12 months as we've all been moved to virtual selling environments.
That's great. So being a student, I don't think we've heard anyone put it that way, but that's so good. I'm curious, I started looking through the book. I just got it the other day, so I haven't had a chance to read it. But in your epilogue, you talk about the future of sales.
Yeah.
So, and I know you wrote that, like, I think around 2019. So I'm curious, with what's happened in the past year, 2020 continued. Are any thoughts about that? Has your thought of the future of sales changed even more since you wrote that part of the book?
It has a little bit. I think the trends that we're seeing in our personal lives very much are following our business to business lives. And I think the pandemic has exacerbated the concept that in our consumer lives, I mean, if you look at some of the data, regardless of the source, the online purchasing habits for everything we buy now, just went through the roof when the pandemic took hold of the world. And for many folks who never thought about, buying groceries online or buying, pharmacy-oriented things online, they figured out how to do that very, very quickly, about a year ago, and that hasn't necessarily changed. And then in the B2B context, I think it's the same thing. I think, buyers were incredibly empowered prior to the pandemic, and we saw those shifts of them researching salespeople, researching companies, their products, their services. And I think that's been, exacerbated as a result of the pandemic. So, the trends I think are accelerating, not to be doom and gloom, but I fully believe that the B2B sales profession is shrinking. And while I don't think that means the extinction of B2B salespeople, I think it does mean a thinning out of folks who have the ability to not only find problems but solve problems for their clients. The days of just exchanging information and transactional, pricing and deal making, I don't think those days will ever go away, but I think you'll see more and more people buying commodity oriented things online because that's what they're now used to buying for their own personal needs.
I love that. And so I do agree, commodity product, it's harder and harder to get in front of the right people and to get that conversation for sure. One of the things that, we talk about all the time is that social selling is about being a resource, bringing insights, being of value, and growing relationships, and then the sales will come when the time is right. We have a colleague friend in the business who had a video that has gone incredibly viral, probably almost 1 million views on LinkedIn, and she talked about buying a car and the difference between someone who said you have to come in and test drive it. She was buying a $100,000 Porsche, to someone else that said, hey, I'm going to go find it. I'm going to bring it to your house. I'm going to, all these, and how, the relationship was the difference in who she purchased from. So in the B2B world, I think that relationship is even stronger and more powerful. And in today's virtual world, where are you going to meet these people? We used to go to conferences and trade shows, and maybe they're coming back. I don't know if they'll ever come back the same way that they were, because we found that we can do so much more online for less money and hit more people. And so LinkedIn now becomes the networking meeting, the conference, the trade show. So while Bob Burg talks about, and he's one of the authors of The Go-Giver and Endless Referrals, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Well, ultimately, how are we getting to know people today? And I think on LinkedIn, it's about attracting them, teaching them, and engaging. And that's how they get to know us. So thank you for that. I just inspired all that funness in me.
Well, so let's go back to the shrinking, shrinking B2B sales force, because I find that interesting. And I think you're definitely right. So now if I'm a salesman, then I'm a salesperson, I'm listening to this. Okay, how do I differentiate myself then? What do I do? Because there's a lot of noise on LinkedIn right now. There's a lot of people, that are reaching out maybe in not so great ways.
Yeah.
And so how do I differentiate myself from all the noise? How do I stand out? What are some of your advice for that?
Yeah, so whether it's LinkedIn in a digital format or whether it's another social platform or even hopefully at some point we can get back to in-person interactions, although I do agree that it may not ever get back to be the way it once was. My big piece of advice, it hasn't really changed even since the pandemic has kind of taken hold, but I'm a real big believer that salespeople need to be content creators, content distributors, and often resources of value through content for not only their network, but their prospects and their existing clients. So, one of the things that I'm a big proponent of is all salespeople allocating the right amount of time to not only share content that's relevant to their industry or the products and services that they interact with, each and every day as part of their job, but also just being interesting and creating, video, written, in some cases visual content if they have artistic abilities. But the idea of being interesting in business and in life, that hasn't changed because we're now all in front of screens. So I think salespeople that have this idea of, I am a content creator, I'm a content distributor, and I'm a facilitator of that content, I think that's a big step in terms of separating themselves from just the classic using social platforms to sell and pitch or connect and pitch. You got to be interesting. That's who people want to interact with, whether it's in person or digitally.
I love that. One of the things we say is connect and pitch is a bait and switch.
True. Yeah, I know you're right.
Yeah.
I love
And,
that.
and so I think that's a huge differentiator, because I think if you were to talk to most salespeople, I'm going across, I'm being stereotypical here, but I think I can be, as they'll tell you they don't have time. I don't have time. There's KPIs and there's KPAs, right? And the bosses, their sales directors, are looking at KPIs. I think of content creation as a KPA, a known performance action that we can do. But really what the leaders are looking for are indicators. But yes, I agree with you that will set people apart. And interesting study that I heard from McKinsey did a report on the B2B buying journey through the pandemic. And what they found is that 77% of buyers say they prefer a first meeting with a sales rep to be, are you ready? Via video. And they even said over a phone call, they would rather it be via video. And so that's an area that's not going to change. That's not going to go away.
So I just want to, just because we use lots of acronyms. So KPAs are key performance activities. This is for the listeners, right? For
Yep.
everyone out there. These are the things that you do that drive KPIs, key performance indicators. Most salespeople, most sales leaders are only interested in the indicators, the data,
Right.
where the activities are what drive the data. So
Right.
content, for example, in creating content is an activity, and we can't get to our goals without that activity. But a lot of sales leaders miss how important that activity is. And the last thing I'll say, and then you go to your next question, which I'm excited about, is I love what you said, Jesse, around that they've got to create their own content. That content is what shows, it gives your buyers almost a little test drive of the value you can bring for them.
Right.
So that, so what you're saying, I just want to kind of just reiterate for everyone, this is foundational. When Bill asked what gets you to stand out, original thought leadership and content is why would someone want to talk to you? You have to earn the right, and you
Right.
do that through thought leadership. So I just wanted to say that. And Jesse, I think that was brilliant. Bill, back to you.
Great, thanks. So we're talking about video, and so you mentioned it when you talked about content. I'm curious how you're leveraging video in the sales process, in the relationship building process now, as a sales rep.
Yeah, so I think a couple different ways. First and foremost, when you think about top of funnel pure prospecting, the ability to leverage. I mean, there's so many great video tools out there. You got Vidyard, you've got OneMob, even within your smartphone. You have the ability, to take a video of yourself, and you can put it on Twitter, you could put it on LinkedIn, or to a certain extent on linkedin.com, with your first degree connections. You can communicate with video voicemail or video messaging, which is powerful. So the top of funnel activity stuff is what you would kind of think. I mean, it's customized, it's personal, it's reaching out using those tools or multiple tools as part of your outbound touches. When you think about getting deeper into the cycle, or getting into the cycle with an existing client, or maybe a current deal that you're working and you're piloting something, or you got a contract that you're working to renew and grow. One of them that my team and I at LinkedIn have been leveraging, which has been not only fun, but also engaging with the client, is very similar to this interaction on Zoom, where we're kind of all, it's like a TV show / podcast / radio interview. We're doing the same thing. We're leveraging tools like Zoom. We're leveraging another one called StreamYard, which is another video recording concept, which does very similar functionality. But the idea of engaging with clients and interviewing them, not necessarily about the product and service that they're buying from you and how's it going and giving it plugs, but more about putting them in the spotlight and asking them to share their content and what's top of mind for them, and then using that as a mechanism to not only educate other folks at the company, but using it on social platforms to educate the universe as to what it is your client is doing and maybe how they can help from their perspective. So those are two examples. And again, I think that they work well, but they work well when they're personal, and they work well when they're organized and there's a delivery and a message that's relevant. If you're just using it as an automated robotic mechanism to spray and pray, just like emailing or voicemails, it's not going to get you too far.
No, in fact, here's what I'll say about using automation with your face or your profile picture on it. That's going to hurt you so badly because, back in the 80s when there was telemarketers and then B2B telemarketers and then email marketing, we were looking at phone numbers, company names, or an email that got deleted. Now we're looking at people's faces.
Right.
And they're putting a personality to that. And so that's terrible. That's terrible. But listen, if you're listening to this, Jesse just gave you some awesome information to use to take your clients, serve them, right? But then interview them so that you can use several different uses for that content. You're serving your client, you're highlighting your client, but then you're also getting content that you can then repurpose and use over. So when you say, well, I don't have time to do whatever, I don't have time to create content. Yes, you do. You have time to create content. And in creating that content, you're actually serving your client, which is serving the KPIs eyes while you're doing the KPAs. And I know Bryn wants to say something.
I know, I love this. This is such great, like mic drop moments. A few things beyond even that content, right? That content is awesome and people love to share their point of view. It makes them feel special. But competitors want to hear what their colleagues are doing, right? Benchmark reports are so valuable. So you will attract more people like your client because they want to see what is my competitor up to and what are they doing. So that content is awesome. You build a stronger relationship, and it could be with a prospect too. It doesn't even have to be necessarily with your client. And you're asking them their point of view that other people like them will care about, and you'll start to attract and engage like a whole sector of people that you're looking to get in front of. And eventually, it won't happen right away, you'll get hands raised and say, hey, I want to be on your show too, because I want to be like these people. So
we're going to kind of bring this in for a landing here. Last question is around consistency. What is one thing, if I'm a sales professional, I'm listening to you now, what's one thing that if I do it consistently is going to create more opportunities, more conversations for me?
Calendar management and time management. Single most important skill that a salesperson can master. Unfortunately, it's often not taught by sales effectiveness or sales readiness teams at medium or small or large companies. But everything that salespeople do, content creation, prospecting, follow-up, building decks, allocating time for their own wellness to get away from their screen. To me, my opinion, and this is referenced pretty heavily in the book, it all comes down to calendar and time management. I can't stress it enough. Bill and Bryn, your points about people saying they don't have time to do this or that, that's a false objection. There are enough hours in the day, and I'm not saying you need to be working 80 to 100-hour weeks, but there are enough hours in the day if you're organized to do what you need to do as a salesperson to build that consistency. And ultimately, when you do those small things well over time, they add up to really, really big things. And anyone who's been in this profession for a while and kind of knows the ups and downs and how it happens, a lot of times, it takes months, if not years, to get large things to develop. But it's the consistency and the persistence through the time management as to how those results are achieved.
I know we said that was the last question. Can I ask one more? Because we have
your name's on the door. You can ask.
We are obsessed with Sales Navigator. Sales Navigator is the tool that pays for the door, right? Like Sales Navigator is foundational. But we will get the question and we have our answer of, well, is it worth the money? We have 100 sales reps. That's a big nut every month. What do you say to them, Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, it's 100% worth the investment if you're making the investment with an intention to wire it into your overall commercial strategy and you have a plan to measure it. Meaning, if I was a sales director and I was, or even a CEO of a company, and I was thinking about all my investments, whether it's something like LinkedIn Sales Navigator or other software, or even something as simple as, are we going to provide people with laptops, headsets, and webcams?
Right.
It's a matter of saying, how does this ultimately flow to the macro level commercial strategy, hopefully around growth, and hopefully with a plan to measure. But if you're a business person or a decision maker, and you're going to buy LinkedIn Sales Navigator or anything for your team, your company, and you don't have it connect to your commercial strategy, and you don't have a plan to measure, you shouldn't make the investment. And that goes across, any investment you'd make for your business.
What's the one reason? I mean, I know mine, but what's the one thing that Sales Navigator will do for their team that they don't have access to now and can't with any other tool?
It's just the access to the data. The company information, the people information. LinkedIn has built a very large commercial business on the fact that the majority of the data on LinkedIn.com is gated. And when you start looking at products like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you're getting the access to the data and the ability to organize that data based on your use case. And ultimately, if your time is valuable and you want to make the best decisions with your time as a business person every single day, you need to be looking at accurate data. And in the commercial world today, I'm not aware of another platform that has more accurate commercial data that auto updates in real time based on the people who author their profiles and the companies who author their company pages. So to me, that's it. It's about the access to the data.
We can't agree more. That's awesome.
Fantastic. Well, Jesse, thanks so much for being with us here on Making Sales Social. How can people get in touch with you, stay in touch with you, connect?
And buy your book.
Yeah, no, thank you both for having me. It was great to chat. So I'm available on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter. I do a newsletter for salespeople and sales leaders on Substack. And the book is available. Carry That Quota on Amazon, Audible, and all other global outlets where books are sold. Whether you're a listener or a reader, you can access it pretty easily as long as you have an internet connection, and a hard copy or soft copy. They're all there.
Fantastic. So listen, go visit Amazon, Audible, all those places. Check the book out. Go on to LinkedIn, look up Jesse Rothstein, follow him, connect with him. If you connect with him, let him know that you heard him on Making Sales Social. So thanks everyone for joining us for Making Sales Social. Thanks again, Jesse. Bye everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening, and join us again for more special guest instructors bringing you marketing, sales training, and social selling strategies that will set you apart. Don't forget to subscribe to get the latest episodes from the Making Sales Social podcast. Leave a review down below. Tell us what you think, what you learned, and what you want to hear from us next. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.